Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome back to 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall, but on today's edition, I'm gonna get hyped. Oh, I wish I had my sunglasses too. But I'm talking to, you might know him as Mojo, Dean Muhtadi. How are you doing today?
Brother, I'm hyped up, man. It seems like you know your stuff. Look at your backdrop. I think you've watched wrestling once or twice before. Like to see it.
No, I've never watched wrestling since 1992. But yes, I have been watching wrestling for quite a long time. I have owned every WWF/E magazine that ever existed in time and space. So I like to put them up and show off what I got.
Yeah,
But obviously,
show it off, man.
you have some lovely accomplishments behind you as well.
Yeah, let me go ahead and add this. I broke the shelf. I bumped it too hard while I was filming. I'll hook up standard protocol for me.
We see it, we acknowledge it, we know you are a former 24/7 champion, and unfortunately, that 24/7 championship was thrown in the trash on an episode of Raw weeks ago. Nikki Cross beat Dana Brooke for it, dumped it in the trash. The lineage is over. What do you think about that?
In the trash can. How about that? That is so wild. You can see some people like that title and some people not so much.
Right. I think it's the judgmental people who are like, well, when I watched, we had the hardcore championship. Yeah, but you know what? That was also like PG TV 14. It was a little different versus PG programming trying to bring a little back something that was in the past to the present, but some people will just always stick their nose up.
That was actually what I was supposed to do with it. You know, I was saying that the 24/7 title was the run and hide title, and I went in and I pitched, why don't we make this thing a little bit more like the hardcore title back in the day, make it a little more legitimate, have a little fun. And if, you know, truth is obviously that was his title. No one will fight that. So if we have this dichotomy of pushing it towards fun and entertainment and pushing it more towards hardcore, that might be a little fun back and forth, and we can check all the boxes at the same time. But we started to head to that path, and then things changed when plans were updated, and unfortunately we never got to that point, but that would have been cool.
I know. I remember Crash Holly in the ball pits fighting the headbangers inside of a Chuck E. Cheese. Like that to me was a lot of fun. I talked to Dana Brooke weeks ago, and I asked her before it was tossed in the trash, what do you want to do with this title? What do you want to do? She actually wanted to transition it into like a women's intercontinental title, so we would have more championships for the women to fight for. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and now the lineage is forever in the trash. Like Medusa tossing that WWF Women's Championship on Nitro in the trash. Nikki Cross will go down as history in 20 years. People will be like, Nikki, why'd you do that? Why did you do that?
I thought it had so much potential too, because all these titles, they kind of have the same exact rules. Yes. So there's no classifications for them. So this is actually one that was different. Anytime, any place, anybody. Like I thought that was pretty cool, and we could have done so much with it, because other than the tag team titles, what title is in, they're all the same kind of thing. I mean, obviously some have more prestige than the other, but what's really the difference between, you know, the WWE title, the Intercontinental, the US title? Like it's all, you know, more or less anybody could have them. It's not by weight class. There's not different qualifications. It's the same.
That's true. The only thing I can think of is if they had like a triple threat championship. Obviously, it'd be triple threat matches. You know, that's the only way you could produce a different outcome. You know, pinfall, submission, DQ, count out. Really, beyond that, you're kind of stuck in a hole of wrestling has been the same rules for so long, but yet somehow it keeps going through time and changing a little bit. But the rules somehow stay the same. But the 24/7 championship, gone forever. I will later on pour out a drink for it. I will lay flowers at its grave. But I thought it was a fun title. I did.
Yeah, hell yeah, it was fun. And I think people didn't really focus on that part. They took it too seriously. I think everyone that held it knew what it was, and you know, it was fun, and it was on you to kind of make it different and try and take it to the next level. But yeah, a lot of people just couldn't see that. A little too short-sighted, I'll say.
Right. Well, they also would always, unfortunately, in perspective of wrestlers, when you see certain stars go for a title, they look at that championship and go, well, that doesn't mean as much as the world title, as in, I love R-Truth, but he's not fighting Roman Reigns.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you know what I mean? And I think that's the perspective of a lot of fans being like, well, well, why do I care? If they don't care about these wrestlers, why should I care about this title? And I guess it goes hand in hand a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. I wanted more ball pit matches. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm
Dude,
saying.
I would have loved that. I pitched a lot of matches at other places. One I was really big on, my business partner that I started my talent management company with, Paragon. He used to be the talent booker and one of the big GMs over at the Hard Rock in Vegas. So Rehab, the pool party there, was one of his spots. I was like, man, we should do a freaking match at a Las Vegas pool party.
Yes.
My buddy runs the show. We can have full access to everything we need. We could have had an absolute blast with that. They never went for it. What can you do?
What can you do? We have to move on through time. Your talent agency, let's talk about that. Yeah, Paragon, you started this with a few different people, but yet why did you want to start this? Because you obviously have so many connections in the world of business, entertainment, sports. This is a little different.
Yeah, man, this has kind of been my baby for a long time. I had this in my back pocket almost the entirety of my wrestling career because it's, wrestling's a lot different than football when you're talking about the infrastructure and everything in place to protect and monitor the talent. When you're with WWE, it's a one-stop shop. They book everything for you until very recently, and I don't know exactly how it's chopped up now, but they were essentially exclusive contracts. You couldn't do anything with your real name outside of wrestling. If you did any brand deals, if you tagged a restaurant or a business on your Instagram, they said you weren't allowed to. Like we used to have meetings about this stuff, and it was just leaving so much money on the table, so much opportunity, so much access to mainstream audiences by having, these kind of looks outside of just the wrestling bubble, which seems to be every year we kind of just focus in on this bubble and it narrows more and more. And I think that's become a problem in wrestling. I think that's part of the reason too why it's not as mainstream as it used to be. There was a time where every single person on the planet watched wrestling and loved it and couldn't wait. And now it's almost like a little more niche because, and it's truly a shame because of everything that professional wrestling can offer the fans and the talent and anybody really that's associated with the business. So I always thought there needed to be more representation in wrestling, someone to watch out for the talent, to get them work and appearances and links in the outside world. And obviously couldn't do that when I was booked as a talent in the company. So
Right.
literally the day my WWE career came to an end, this was the next step. Started it the very next day. I called my business partner, Steve K, one of my best friends. I pitched him this idea. I only had to say 2 sentences. He was in from the start. It was something that he always thought would be a good idea too, and he had direct experience in. So with our backgrounds, our MBAs, our real world business experience, it just made a lot of sense. And we started the company, and man, we hit the ground running. It really took off. The talent needed it. The brands had no idea that they needed it. There's been an education process, but everyone's been extremely happy with how it's went. And in the end, we've been able to financially secure some of our wrestlers. One of our mission was to allow our talent the ability to wrestle only if they wanted to and not because they needed to. And we have a handful of talent that we've already made them more money than they did in their highest years with WWE in less than a year with us.
Wow. Now you bring up third parties because that was a big, big argument last year amongst wrestling media where a lot of fans were upset that wrestlers couldn't use Twitch anymore because they were making crazy amounts of money on Twitch versus what they were making at the WWE. But yet the WWE as a company was like, wait a minute, where's my slice of that pie? I'm not getting any of that. You're saying you're, for instance, like Dakota Kai or your AJ Styles, your Xavier Woods, but you're not giving us any money. So eventually people started changing their Twitter names to their real names and started changing their Twitches to their real names. So wouldn't it be this weird crossover? I know Paige had this issue for a while too, but yet with you're saying that with your talent, they're making more money now being able to go and adventure out and to do different things than they were before. Like I know the members of the Iconics, they opened OnlyFans, and boom, you start making money. CJ Perry, another talent of yours, Lana, OnlyFans, making money in movies. Like that probably wouldn't have been allowed if they were still working in the WWE, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple things here to kind of unpack for WWE. I'll defend WWE for one part of this for sure. They gave us our wrestling names. They created our wrestling identities for some of us, at least those that started from day one with the company, like myself. So
Yes.
if they own the name for Mojo Rawley, I completely understand and agree with them that I shouldn't be able to take their IP and the image that they've created through their television show and market it and use it however I see fit in the outside world. That's not fair. And it can be
Yeah.
contradictory to everything that they work so hard on for their television show. You know, to give you an example, if you take The Undertaker, that was a WWE character and everything that he accomplished in the ring and his persona and his attitude and his demeanor. And then he's so smiling and happy go lucky and doing all these outside deals, trying to use that name and identity outside of the company. This is a problem because all it takes is one John Cena style hefty commercial or one appearance in a movie playing that role. And now you're not looking at The Undertaker in the light you're supposed to anymore.
Yes.
But by the same token, if he wants to go out and use his real name and, you know, he's got to have some level of, you know, all of us have to have some level of accountability too. You don't want to do anything that's too contradictory to what you're doing on television. You still need to protect your brand and your primary MO at that time, but you should have some leeway to go out and use your real name, because at the end of the day, once you retire from WWE or get fired, you're done. There's no pension plan. There's no, you know, medical assistance afterwards. You're out on your own in the cold, and you need to be able to financially secure yourself. So if you're a mid-card or lower level talent, you're not making enough to retire after WWE. You are going to have to find a new career afterwards. So you want to make sure you align yourself and you put yourself in the best position
Yeah.
to do that. And then to talk about you know, the former Iconics and the former Lana, I will correct, they're with a platform called Brand Army, not OnlyFans, with the big difference being that absolutely no nudity allowed there
Yep.
whatsoever. And that's, you know, been a big one actually, because these exclusive content platforms, they're just an opportunity for the fans to actually direct message, to interact with the talent, to have access to them, to see what they're up to, you know, see them backstage preparing for a match, and, you know, kind of have an inner look at what that looks like through their own platforms, to do a cooking show along with them, you know, to go train with them, whatever it might be. It's just a good way to get to know them. And again, for these talent, it's a massive moneymaker, similar to Twitch. You don't always log on to Twitch to watch a person play video games. You log on to, you know, have them answer your questions, to see what they're like in their element, in their homes, just being them, and not, you know, having a script handed to them where they're having to be someone else. That's the reason why people want to get to know you like that. So being able to, again, capitalize on who you are and not the IP that, you know, the WWE or any of these other professional wrestling you know, titans have to offer. You know, you get to be you is the big difference.
Right. It's funny you bring up Undertaker, and because in 2000, when he went from Undertaker to American Badass, there was always rumors being like, you know, he's going to WCW. That's why he changed his clothes, so he couldn't show up as, oh, he's dressed as the Undertaker. Like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were not Diesel and Razor Ramon. You know, like they looked like them, obviously, but they weren't. Ricky Steamboat, years ago, him and his wife got divorced. She actually owned the name, the wrestler, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So that's why he just fell off the face of the earth for so long, because he couldn't do anything because he didn't own his name. So who the hell wants to meet, you know, whatever the name who's going under at the time, because no one knows. You put that in a marquee, it's like, wait, who's this? Who's
Yeah.
this? But
Well,
now in today's world, it's different.
that was a big thing with The Rock earlier. And
Yep.
if I recall, he tried to start going by Dwayne Johnson from the jump because WWE owned The Rock, and
they wanted a piece.
it wasn't as successful because everyone knew him as The Rock. So he needed those years outside to build up, you know, the reputation and the awareness of his real name before he could go back to it. And I believe he had to buy back, you know, the name The Rock from WWE so he could operate as both. But man, I mean, that's got to be the biggest success story in the history of professional wrestling, right? Everything he's been able to do outside of the ring. And yeah, let me say the biggest success story outside of WWE in terms of creating an identity, because everyone's got their own Mount Rushmores, their own MVPs inside the ring. But I tell you what, as someone on the outside now, The Rock really has paved the way for all of us to do other things. And, again, while you're with, some of the bigger companies, you don't have that access to these outside markets. Now that he's been able to be out there and show the world who he is, man, he's obviously maybe the biggest star on the planet, and he's just made it so easy for everybody else afterwards.
Yeah, and if you go back to 2011, where John Cena was criticizing The Rock for trying to be a part-timer and go do movies and show up, go leave. I love John Cena so much, but I think it's hilarious that in a wrestling storyline he says these things. Now you brought up Hefty as one of the commercials he's in. Obviously Suicide Squad, everything he's doing now with Batista as well. It seems like there's the crossover. Like the pathway to get to Hollywood was like Hulk Hogan at first, and it didn't really work out for him. So everyone thought, oh, well, it won't work out for anybody else. But then The Rock obviously did it. Now John Cena, Batista, like the line has been widened for allowing wrestlers to cross over into different mainstreams with talent that are underneath your talent agency. So with some of the talent, have you secured them giant deals? Because obviously you were in G.I. Joe, but that was obviously you securing that, I'm guessing, yourself versus your talent, which you're getting deals for them. Like, what was the biggest one you think as today for one of the talents underneath your group?
Man, I get asked that question all the time, and I absolutely have no idea how to answer it. We've worked with well over 100 brands now, like different companies for our talent in less than a year. And man, that's a tough one. But I can start this by saying our initial goal was to do primarily marketing deals for our talent, to brand deals, for social media deals, maybe appearances, things of that sort, stuff that would allow them to continue to do everything that they wanted to do, wrestle full time for whoever they wanted to wrestle with, and be able to, not leave the house and still make more money than they were to leave the house kind of situation. And then that morphed into negotiating contracts. So we've negotiated contracts for our talent with WWE, AEW, Impact, New Japan. I mean, I think we've negotiated contracts for everybody with all the world's biggest companies. And now it's just at the point where it's anything we can get our hands on to help out our guys. It doesn't matter if it's within our initial realm. We seek to do everything, because from our side too, me and Steve, we just started this thing ourselves, and we're just kind of rolling with the punches as it goes. So, wherever this crazy path takes us, we're ready to rock with it. And it's been fun and exciting just to see where it's all going to shake out. But we've had a lot of talent that have done, deals with some pretty big brands, and we feel like it's only the beginning. So it's been a great relationship.
So why haven't you hired Lisa, the security guard, yet, who clearly
I actually have to call Lisa because it's her birthday.
And right now, oh my God! Oh, well, happy birthday,
happy
Lisa!
Birthday, Lisa! I love you.
She is the most intimidating security guard ever. Even taking down Gronk while he's trying to come into the ring and help and assist you at WrestleMania 33. Why is she not on the payroll? Because she deserves something. Like bring an Avengers movie, have her take down Hulk or something. Because I'm still impressed. Andre getting body slammed by Hogan, Rock versus Austin, Lisa the security guard stopping Gronk from getting into the ring are highlights in my brain. Like that has got to be one of those craziest moments you've ever seen in your life.
She is my guardian angel, so I need her to manage me. I don't need to be managing her. She is the GOAT. Legitimately the scariest, toughest security member that we had on the entire staff, which is funny because if you get her backstage or outside of work, she is an absolute sweetheart. But it doesn't change the fact that she's a badass. I believe she is also the person. I don't know if you remember this. Was it Survivor Series?
Did she stop Enzo?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
When Enzo was in disguise, she yanked his ass off of the chair when he stood up. I was in tears because I love Enzo. I think he is one of the biggest characters I've ever met in my life. One of the best mic workers for sure. Her snatching him up like that, I was in tears, but it just added to her reputation and her resume. And dude, she is the first person to dive in there in these situations. And I mean, she is a woman that is smaller than a lot of like these big guys that you see in the ring.
Yeah.
She is tougher than everybody. And I'm saying she will sprint into action, even if it's something that's probably a safe situation, because those guys don't get enough credit. Because if a fan wants to hop the guardrail and slide into the ring, you know, you got the heads up, you got the notice. They have to react on the fly and hopefully be close enough to you to stop you. Bottom line is, if a fan really wants to get into the ring, they can, but they're the ones that are on the hook for it. You think of when Bret Hart was giving his speech at the Hall of Fame. We all thought that was part of the show. I saw the guy run right past me and I started laughing because I was like, oh, this is going to be good. They're going to bump his ass around once he gets in the ring.
Yeah.
And to your point from earlier, she didn't know Gronk was going to come in. She stopped him doing her job. You know, this thing can go either way. So I got to give those guys a lot of credit because that is a tough gig.
So, for instance, no one told anybody that Gronk is going to be involved with the situation, or maybe somebody knew but didn't tell everybody. Like that seemed like whenever everyone was watching that, we're like, wait a minute. Like even as a fan, we're like, we know who that is. That's not a fan. You know, that's Gronk. We know he's involved. We know him and Mojo have like a relationship. Okay. And then yet she's like, you're not going anywhere. And we're all like, what is she doing? Like even as a fan watching on TV, you're like, what is she doing? Like this is clearly part of the show, because we have seen fans jump in the ring, attacking Seth Rollins, getting in the ring with Dean Ambrose, Triple H. Just a video of Triple H and Steve Austin having a good time with a fan who tried to get in a ring in a live show. So there are times, but like, did you talk to her after and go like, did no one clue you in what was happening here?
No, she had no clue. And that's funny because that kind of surmises how things can go in any big company. You know, there's a lot of people that knew. Every member of that match was out there to do our quick little run through beforehand. And, you know, they wanted to give Rob enough reps to feel comfortable, because let's not forget, he was still in football when that happened. Like he was just in the offseason. I believe the Patriots didn't fully know that he was doing that. I think they buzzed a few of the right people, but none of his teammates knew. Most of his coaches didn't know. They just got the okay from whoever they felt like they needed to tell. But all the wrestlers were out there in the ring. You thought that everyone would have been buzzed on that situation. But the security wasn't out there. They were in this massive stadium doing their checks and looking for bombs and doing what they do, and, you know, bringing up to speed all the additional security and police officers. And they have tough days on TV too. So, you know, we didn't hold them against them, but man, what a funny thing. And I actually maintain to this day that worked out for the better, because you know how, you know, hardcore wrestling fans are. They're not always so receptive to outsiders, especially ones that come in and haven't either earned their stripes in a ring or at least put it out there in the world that they are a hardcore wrestling fan, like maybe a George Kittle, you know? So they actually, when they first showed Rob, they booed him. Some booed him, some cheered him.
Yeah.
Let's also not forget, when you play for one team in the NFL, the rival teams will always boo a player of another team. So when that happened in the match, I was like, oh man, they might not be with this situation. And when he got up after Jinder doused him, he stepped in the ring. Some people still weren't with it. But once Lisa, you know, yoked his ass up and snatched him up, which I still clown him to this day about that. He got his ass whipped and dominated. All the fans who were like hating on him, they were checked immediately, because they realized how much they wanted to see what was to happen. You know, their curiosity took over. And then after Lisa let him go, everybody was with it. And we got to exactly where we wanted to be, and it made the whole spot even better. So I was grateful for it. I thought it was hilarious. I was literally on the ground right underneath yelling, "Part of the show, let him go. It's all good," you know.
Oh God, yeah, because again, we're watching it. Everyone's like, you see kind of people looking around, wondering like what the hell's going on, and it was just one of those moments where I don't think everyone's ever going to forget that. Like usually, like the kickoff show are matches that people are like, oh, okay, this is getting me ready for WrestleMania. No, that was a moment, a WrestleMania moment, not a oh, that was a kickoff. Okay, no big deal. No, it's outstanding. But you and Gronk, obviously, with the pandemic happening and him hosting WrestleMania and 24/7 championships being involved, was there supposed to be more with you and Gronk, like a tag team wrestling together?
Yeah.
Because it seemed like this was logical, but yet the pandemic, it's like, okay, well, we don't have to get in our bubbles because we don't really know what's happening next.
Yeah, well, that actually kind of goes with what I was talking about later when I had the 24/7 title and we were going to start heading down this way to make it more hardcore and really dive into that. And then they called up Madcap Moss, now Riddick Moss at the time, to be involved with that, which I was like, oh, this is going to be great because this is a big, solid dude, an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
You know, when he was in NXT, he had all the records for those guys there for like the competitions that Sean Hayes, the strength coach, would put up. So he was the guy there physically. And for me, I was always the numbers guy when I was there. So I was like, dude, this is right up my alley. We can do some seriously cool physical athletic things because this dude, he's exactly like me and he's hungry and he wants to work. So I was stoked and we were headed a way that was going to be really awesome. And that storyline of me, him, and Truth was going to roll right into Mania. And we had some plans to really like legitimize this 24/7 title. And, you know, who knows where it would have actually ended up. But I know what was on paper was really cool. But then, you know, Rob was hanging it up from football, and we had always chatted about getting him involved with wrestling, and it'll be easier for him, coming in with, like his best friend already on the show and so many awesome talent that he could work with. So we ended up scrapping the 24/7 title plans to work in Rob and do a storyline, and the plan was to do a tag match with me and him at SummerSlam because it was in Boston that year.
I know.
And
I
we
can't.
were,
I'm so upset.
man, that would have been ridiculous. And I think we were gonna work Miz and John Morrison. They were throwing around some names. There was potentially the Revival we were talking about.
Nice.
Obviously it's their call, so they were gonna do what they think.
Yeah.
Any one of those guys would have made that match an incredible match, and Rob was ready to come in and work. But yeah, he came in, he signed the contract from Boston. I think I was going to turn on him, and then we were going to have the one-on-one no DQ match in Saudi Arabia where
Nice.
where my dad's whole side of the family lives, with kind of like the storyline, after I turn on him, you beat the crap out of me in my hometown in front of my family. I'm going to do the same to you in Saudi at one of these big matches. And I thought that was going to be dope. And he would have had enough time to come in and train like, Bad Bunny and Logan Paul, guys that trained every single day in the ring for 3, 4, 5 weeks, and they're training for one match. They're not training for a different match every night. So when you're training for one match, you can get anybody there to go in and kill it with enough training if they have a good athletic pedigree, which of course Gronk has. So that was the plan. But then I was sitting with him in his trailer before a SmackDown when Brady and Drew Rosenhaus called him and told him that Brady was, going to go to the Bucks.
Oh man.
Rob had, I believe, 10 million or more on the table to go back for one season left on his contract. And it was just like, it was a no-brainer, to come back. He was feeling good. He was feeling fresh. Go back for one last run. Of course, they won a Super Bowl, so he definitely made the right decision. So I can't knock him for that. But after that, it was a tough one because it's like, well, we gave up these really cool 24/7 plans to do this, but now this is done. And now we got to figure out what to do next. So then it was kind of like this weird period of what am I going to do next? And we started to have this idea, and I believe they were talking about maybe me, Cesaro, and Shinsuke doing a new kind of League of Nations kind of thing with me playing on the Arab background. And I believe that ran right into when I got COVID really bad and had to stop wrestling.
Yeah, that unfortunately that COVID ruined a lot of plans, and the vacations, the 4-day pack of SummerSlam tickets I had for SmackDown, NXT, SummerSlam, and Raw. No, I'm not personally angry at COVID, but yes, you did get COVID, and that was a journey because I've had it twice now, and the first time it was like a slight cough. The second time I had it, I was not feeling good. I was down for the count, and I went to a bunch of events beforehand, so it felt like I got them from going to too many live events and then coming home. But with you, what was your situation like? Because I know it turned pretty dire.
Yeah, it got bad. It was right at the beginning when COVID was the nastiest and when everyone knew the least about it.
Mm.
We were deemed essential workers with WWE from the start, which was hilarious. We never missed a week, which was crazy. If we could never miss a week through COVID, we're probably never going to miss a week through anything.
True. The zombie apocalypse, maybe, but yes.
No, I think we'll still run it.
They'd be like, liquor stores, marijuana stores, wrestlers,
Wrestling.
essential to society.
But yeah, like we were still going, and we just kept doing our thing, and nobody really thought much of it, especially being here in Florida. But I got sick around the same time a lot of people got sick, and you know, we didn't know a thing about it. We didn't know how to treat it. We didn't know how to at least live with it. And we just kept pushing. And then, you know, it just got really bad. And I was wondering why I got hit so hard because I never get sick, you know, like I'm always fine. My cardio was always the best, you know, for any football team I ever played on, for wrestling, definitely among the big guys. I think I had the second best pulse on the entire roster. I was just behind Seth Rollins, which I was always like, I don't know how you train to get a better pulse, but I gotta push for this one. But I ended up talking to the doctors, and in hindsight, they said because I was in such great cardio shape and because I trained so hard, that actually made me more of a target. Like athletes can defend against COVID the best, but like the guys who really kill themselves on a daily basis, you know, maybe your heavy CrossFitters, your marathon runners, people that train like I did, those guys are actually more of a target. Something about your lungs are stronger so you can breathe the COVID in deeper into the serious nooks and crannies of your lungs. And also in case you have any like minor scarring, or if your lungs were currently already at, you know, a reduced level from training so hard, you know, from recovering, it just, all these things make you way more susceptible. And yeah, man, I was rough. I had to go to the hospital for a while. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't wear a t-shirt because it was suffocating. I couldn't lay on my back to sleep. I couldn't lean against the chair like this because any extra pressure on the lungs was just like a, you know, a anaconda boa constrictor just squeezing the hell out of me. I couldn't get any air in. There were days where I couldn't speak because I just could not breathe. This went on for a while. And then after that, it was kind of like good day, bad day, good day, bad day. You know, I felt almost normal and like I was coming out of it. And then boom, I crashed for like 4 or 5 days and I can't do anything. So that
How long did that last for?
Quite some time, over a year.
Wow.
It lessened as it would go on. It happened a little less frequently. Now I'm good. I can train really hard and get after it, but it took an incredibly long time to come back from this one. And that's the case for the long haulers. It just takes so much time. Some people never recover. It's they're still learning about it, but they were actually using me, some doctors, as a case study for this thing when it was happening because it was just so crazy.
That's in, oh my, you know, I've heard stories. I work in the news industry as well, and there have been stories where, say, someone got COVID, they forgot how to walk, like their legs do not work, and they had to rehab. And this is like a state trooper who suddenly was protecting everybody, and now this man can't do his job. and same thing, long COVID, you know, suffering from headaches, from chest pains, leg aches, body aches. You clearly had a awful year of being a science guinea pig of these people obviously studying you, being like, sir, could you lay this way? Yes, he does still cough. He's not hyped. He is not hyped. Everyone is, he's not hyped.
I was still really hyped. I just, was hyped trying to get air.
Internally. That sounds awful. That sounds awful. I'm so sorry to hear about that. There's a couple more questions, but one is, you always hear about tag teams traveling around the world, being friends or not being friends. Were you friends with Zack Ryder when you were a tag team? Because I hear stories that you might not have been.
We got along more personally than professionally. Let's say it like that. Neither of us wanted to be in that tag team. We both had much bigger plans than we thought the Hype Bros could deliver it. But, it was my way to get called up. It was Zach's way to have kind of something to do.
Right.
And we wanted to see where we took it. I don't think they ever had plans for us to be together long. I think it was supposed to be one of those situations where it's like, let's pair you up just so we can get to the separation and get you guys to different places. Zach and I had wildly varying ideas for not only where we wanted to take that tag team, but almost like opinions on professional wrestling too. And I think all that kind of came to light within the tag team. Zach's a career wrestler. This is like more or less the only thing he's ever done. This has been his life. I obviously came from football, and regardless of, if I watched before and, was a big fan before, I wasn't a wrestler before. So, I was looking at the business from a different way than he was. And I think for the Hype Bros, we tried to find kind of like a happy medium there. I think we tried to play up the dichotomy when we could, but I feel like the fact of the matter is we just were together to split us up. And we also got called up the same time as American Alpha with Jason Jordan and Chad Gable. So they were going to be the babyface new tag team that gets the run. And we were going to be kind of the entertainment act short term to break us up. And then that process just took way longer than we wanted it to. And when we finally got our run to, to have like a title shot, and I think it was going to be against the Wyatt family, that's when Zach hurt his knee. I got off to have like a good little solo run for a little bit, and that was the year I won the Andre. And then when we came back, that's when we started to set up the break. But yeah, Zach and I are very opposite humans in every way possible. We love to clown each other for that and joke each other. We bury each other on social media every chance we can get. We even bury each other when we text each other on, personally. It's more us burying the Hype Bros as a team, since we both didn't want to do it. But that being said, we both worked really hard and did everything we could there to try and make it as successful as we could. But yeah, he's maybe my favorite person on the planet to hate.
I like the Hype Bros, but you are right about what was going on, because I believe the year would be 2016, and that's when they decided to have their draft again. So finally, Raw and SmackDown were going to be officially separated one more time, and that's when they started calling people up left and right. Because they needed to form a tag team division on SmackDown to crown new champions. And I think you were part of that tournament as well. They even brought their Spirit Squad. They brought back the Headbangers. So they were just bringing in teams. So obviously maybe you're right about the fact that we want you together just so we can break you up later, because we need to have this tournament to crown new tag team champions, which I believe with Heath Slater and Rhino, if I'm correct. At Backlash 2016, so there was a lot going on there, obviously heading into that. One following question though, well, I have two questions. One is, what was the reason of your release from the WWE? Because obviously financial reasons are the reason we hear from everybody. And then when we see these weird rumors of like, oh, they were hard to work with. You don't seem hard to work with. You seem like a
No,
nice guy. So the fact that you hear these things like, oh, they were let go for financial reasons, but really, he's hard to work with. What was the reason?
my situation was a little different. My relationship with the company was always strong, and I had my role in the company. I was the hype guy. Come in, bring the energy, do
Yeah.
your thing, and then get in, get out, get hype, get gone, kind of thing. And then I did a lot of work as an ambassador for the company, a lot of public speaking roles, appearances, kind of all kinds of things, community service, just building the brand outside of the ring. And surprisingly, there was very few of us that they used primarily for those roles. The big three for those was me, Titus, and Roman. Those were the three guys that they usually used for those things. So there was a lot of, I knew what my relationship was. I could see that we were probably going to be stagnating for a while. And the name of the game in wrestling is just survive long enough to get your run. You could be a job guy for 10 years and then you finally get your push and you're a main eventer. You see guys get fired, come back, their entire career changes, and it's all building towards that moment. So that's the name of the game. But I also knew too, was like, I didn't want to wait around forever to maybe have that shot. I felt like I had so much more to offer, not only the company, but the world, building my own resume while I was still, younger, on the younger side. So I got COVID and it just wasn't getting better. And I was out for almost a year. My last match against Chad Gable, that was like, I got sick right after that, right around that time, I guess. And I was out for like a year. So it just got to the point where it was like, maybe I should be doing other things right now. I can go back whenever that is and probably be in the same spot as I was, or I can bet on myself here and, remember who I was before this place, before I got pigeonholed in that spot, and really see what I can do. And it was stressful. And of course, it's scary anytime you give up a career like that, a salary like that, to start over from nothing. But that's how I made it in football, by taking those big, leaps of faith. And that's how I, got started in wrestling too. So it was just like, let's do other things here. I'll give you a call when I feel better. I promise, like, you guys will be the first one to hear from me. I'll give you kind of right of first refusal, maybe. As long as the situation makes sense, I will add, and we'll go from there. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I started doing other things, because I feel like, I've created an empire now along with my friend Steve, and just really rediscovering my worth and what I'm capable of with all these other opportunities I've had between TMZ, all the brand partners I've worked with, Paragon, and just a couple of other things I have in the works. And it's been a blessing, truly. So I'm glad that situation came to an end when it did, because sometimes you need a change of pace and a little break to rediscover yourself, and that's what I've been doing.
That's true too. Yeah, you're right. That, people think sometimes when the door is shut, it's shut forever. But yet, obviously, when the saying goes, one door shuts, another one opens, with your talent group, Paragon, obviously things are working out for you. Things are going well with TMZ, and you're involved with sports and all these brands. It is such a pleasure to sit here and talk to you about all these things. I have been hyped this whole time. I think a couple of sips of my energy drink, but I didn't need it. I needed a couple sips of Dean, a little Mojo.
There it is. I got you, homie.
You got me. And I appreciate you being here on 10 Count. Seriously, I appreciate it so damn much. It was an honor talking to you today on 10 Count. I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. But I've been Steve Fall. He's been hyped the whole damn time. Oh, are we flexing? I'll just put my finger behind my muscle like this. Hold on. There we go. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.